The sun has a diameter of over 864,000 miles. It loses over 4 million tons of mass every second and will still take thousands of millions of years to burn out. If you wanted to count the stars in the known universe, and you could count 3 million of them every second, 3 million, 6 million, 9 million, it would still take you over 100 million years to count them. Counting at 3 million per second. My God spoke that into existence. He told it to be. And it was. He beat it into being. It had no option but to be. Pure coercive power. All the power in the universe is his. The psalmist says, proclaim the power of God, whose majesty is over Israel, whose power is in the skies. But even the creation itself, although impressively revealing the power of God, and I could keep you enamored with stats from the things we see around us all day. But even although impressive as that is, I think the power of God is better displayed elsewhere. The forces of Assyria, under the direction of Sennacherib, had already conquered, beaten, brutally conquered and beaten and swallowed everything in their path, including the 10 northern tribes who, up until that moment, thought that the promises of God's safety and the promises of his salvation were unconditional, and they could do pretty much whatever they want, and God would never harm them. They're his little pets. They're his little favorites. Until they were led away with hooks through their face back to Assyria. Well, now those same troops camped outside Jerusalem, taunting those inside, threatening those inside. King Hezekiah prayed, and God answered that prayer. God sent one angel into the Assyrian camp that night. And I prefer the King James here. I'm not a big fan of the King James. I don't have anything against it. Obviously, he was Scottish. In fact, his castle is about 30 miles from where I grew up. I just don't use the King James Version. I don't use it for the same reason I don't use a French Bible. I don't speak the language, and neither does anyone else round about me speak the language. And given that the New Testament was written in common Greek, the common language of the people, I think God wanted us to understand that so that we could speak in the common language of the people. But nevertheless, on this occasion, the King James Version rules supreme, because the King James Version reads that once God sent an angel into that camp, 185,000 Assyrian soldiers woke up dead. Now, there's a lot of ways to wake up in the morning, and I'm no waking up expert, but I think that's among the worst ones that can happen to us. And nevertheless, even although the angels impressively reveal the power of God, I think his power is better revealed elsewhere. Jesus, you'll remember, on the night that he was betrayed, said that at his fingertips, at his word, 72,000 angels awaited his single command. 72,000. Jesus had at his fingertips an incomprehensible weight of power. The man who danced a waltz on the waters of Galilee, the man who spoke to dead people, and they answered him. The one who argued with the weather and won. The one who with a few loaves and a few fishes proved to us that someone greater than Moses was here. The one who spoke the light of Genesis into the eyes of the blind. And yet, nevertheless, even although Jesus revealed the power of God by the things that he did, I think his power is still better demonstrated elsewhere. I think the greatest display of the power of God in relationship to Jesus came at the crucifixion and leading up to the cross. Now, if you do the math, you know, one angel can kill 185,000 men a night, and Jesus could call 72,000 of them. That's about 13 minutes. That means Jesus could take care of London and New York by the time we've finished breakfast. Incomprehensible weight of power. But the power that night wasn't in display that he called 72,000 angels, but in the fact that he didn't call that power into being. You see, power is so often best displayed by what it can do, but doesn't. The jeers, the humiliation, and he didn't call 72,000 angels. The flogging, the beating, the cross on his back, the thorn on his brow, didn't call 72,000 angels. The witnessing of his mother having to mourn him, and he didn't call 72,000 angels. And nevertheless, even although Jesus revealed the power of God impressively by the things that he didn't do, I think God's power is better demonstrated elsewhere. Moses killed a man. He met God with a stuttering unwillingness, needed his big brother to hold his hand all the way down into Egypt and all the way out. And to that man, God said, "You'll do. You'll do." And with him led millions out of Egypt. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and told Gideon that the Lord was with him, Gideon argued the case. That's no small feat. You remember Daniel. Daniel spent all night in a den of lions, and his legs collapsed out from under him when he saw an angel. Not Gideon. Gideon starts arguing. "Oh, the Lord is with us, is that right? Well, if the Lord is with us, how come we're in the hands of Midian?" When the angel reported that Gideon was to be the means by which the Lord would deliver Israel, Gideon argued again. "Oh, you've got the wrong man. I'm the least in my tribe, and my tribe is the weakest in Manasseh." And he wasn't lying. He was the least, and they were the weakest. Nevertheless, God said, "Gideon, you'll do. Who will go for us, and whom shall we send?" I'm a man with unclean lips, said Isaiah. I'm a man with unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. But if you'll take me, send me. God said, "Isaiah, you'll do." Elijah takes on 450 prophets of Baal, humiliates them into the ground, slaughters them, and then 10 minutes later he's hiding from a woman. I've met those kind of women. Cut them some slack. Samson, shackled in a Philistine church, blinded by his own stupidity. David brings down a 9-foot giant of a man, yet can't find the strength to walk past the bathtub of Bathsheba. Elijah, terrified by a woman. Samson, conned by a woman. David, lured by a woman. Are we seeing a pattern anywhere here? Elijah, you'll do. Samson, you'll do. David, you're the man for the job. And there are thousands like them, the Hebrew writer says. Thousands like them, that the world was not worthy of them. Not spiritual giants, not exceptionally righteous. Every time a woman turned up, their life fell apart. Thousands like them. World was not worthy of them. We really need to get past this idea that God can use him, and I see why God could use that guy. I see why God used her, but not me. Yes, you! God doesn't make mistakes, and it's you that he called. But you don't know me. I do know you. I am you. They are you. And you is all he's ever used. Including his son. His son was you. The power of God, unquestionably, is revealed most of all in what he has done, is doing, can do, and will do with a human family. I don't know what's happened in the West recently, but it's about time we stood up again and we opened our mouths and we told this world about our God. You know, there was a time, and I'm speculating a little bit, but there was a time when Jesus returned back into heaven. Gabriel would have said to him, that was quite impressive. You know, there were a couple of moments. We were already, there was about 72,000 of us. By my count, we were all, God said, he's got this. And Jesus said, well, thank you. And Gabriel said, what now? I mean, this is the whole plan. The whole plan of God is now resting on what? And Jesus said, oh, you see that, move a couple of clouds out the way. You see that house down there in Jerusalem? I've left them in charge. They're going to carry the word to the uttermost ends of the earth. And Gabriel said, what house? Jesus said, that house. He said, the house with all the scholars, those who are pouring themselves over the Torah and praying constantly, that house? Jesus said, no, not that house. And Gabriel says, oh, that one, the one with all Jerusalem's influencers, all the bigwigs, the movers and the shakers, the people who know everybody. No, not them. Well, what house? That house. Oh, the one with all the bankers and their friends, the guys with all the money. You going to pour money into this enter? No, not that house. Gabriel's like, well, there's only one house left and the door's locked and they're all terrified, shivering behind the door. Jesus said, yeah, that house. That house. And Gabriel said, I don't want to question. I don't want to question what you're up to. And I'm not saying that they're going to fail, but if I had to put money on it, they look as if, what if they fail? And Jesus said, I have no other plan. He said, in fact, that little group that you're looking at, Gabriel, they're going to be the downfall of the entire Roman Empire. And they're going to erect upon her ruins the standard of my cross. And you know what we did? We finished the job. we absolutely brought the Roman Empire to its knees and erected the cross upon her ruins. And when we were done with that, you know what we did then? We kind of looked at each other and said, I guess we just keep going. You're sitting here this morning because millions like you down through the ages heard sermons and they didn't stay seated, shout amen, and walk out as though they'd heard nothing. You're sitting here this morning because millions like you walked faithfully against the current, swam bravely against the tide, often stood in the middle of the flames. We turned our faces resolutely toward Jerusalem, that we saw nothing except that we saw it through the shadowy figure of the cross. We looked our enemy in the eye and said, no! I don't care how often you beat me down, I'm getting up! Because we had said yes to God. You see, the marvel of the pyramids is not so much the structures themselves, right? I mean, they are impressive, I know that. But that's not what's impressive. What is impressive is what they had at their fingertips to do it. They didn't have the hydraulics, the power tools that we have now, and yet thousands of years later, there they still stand. We built something and it's 50, 60 years older. We're like, yeah, it's probably got to come down now. I don't know what it is about America. I think it's your pioneer spirit. But I walk through places like San Francisco and there's people boasting, yeah, we renovated this building to how it looked almost 60 years ago. I've got bread in my fridge older than that. The marvel of the pyramids is not the structure themselves, it's what they had to accomplish it. And that's why the power of God is most eloquently testified to by us. It's not so much what he did, it's what he used to accomplish it. Even as I indicated earlier, even when it came to the salvation of the world and what I preached about last time I was here. When that ace was played, when that victory was won, it was won by one of us, a human. As someone might run in, oh, wait a minute, Jesus was God. Well, Jesus was the Logos of God, but he was the Logos of God made flesh. Made flesh. The Word became flesh. The Word did not become a human-God hybrid. The Word became flesh. He was the last Adam. All man, the genuine man. Man as we had always intended to be. God did it. There's no denying it. But when he did it with a man. And we're told he's still a man. The one who now intercedes for us, the Bible says. The man, Christ Jesus. And how many more things God accomplished down through the book. Particularly in Hebrews 11. With men and women who were not the Logos made flesh. They were not God being men. They're men being men. And women being women. With all their ills and all their failings and all their problems, world was not worthy of them. In fact, the Hebrew writer finishes that chapter with saying, I don't even have time to tell you about all the rest. I would run out of ink, I would run out of paper, I would run out of time telling you about the millions who down through the world said no to it and yes to God. Because this is our time. This is our shot. You're not getting a second one. This is it. This is your moment. This is the part of the narrative where you come on screen. This is your stage. The spotlight is on you now. This is it. What are you going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? We're going to get to the brink of the promised land and then shirk back in faithlessness and fear? Well, we can't do that. We know what he does to those people. What are we going to do? We're going to walk through our little wildernesses, grumbling and moaning and whining our way through life? Well, we can't do that. You remember they tried that with Moses. Remember they came and complained against the leadership of Moses. What did God do? Opened up the ground and swallowed them. You don't get a more comprehensive verdict than that. Oh, these morons, these idiots thought they were complaining against Moses, but God chose Moses. That was the problem. It wasn't Moses they were complaining about, it was God. It was like Adam, this woman that you gave me. He's blaming God. He's saying that your judgment is suspect. The arrogance of it. The gall. We need to be careful who we open our mouth about. Or at least keep changing position so that if God opens the ground, you might get away. I think sometimes we forget who exactly we're dealing with here. We get so comfortable doing all the little religious things, although God's overly impressed by breaking a little piece of bread that we could lose under our fingertip and sip a drink of wine that wouldn't quench the thirst of a hamster. As though that's what it was all about. Dear me, this is God, this is his plan, this is it, it's your shot, it's our shot. Mineral Wells is resting on you. It's about time we unlocked that door, stood up and stiffened our spines and gave this town a living hope. A reasonable shot at it. Not because we are great. It's not even our gospel, it's his. We want anything good to say, we got to borrow his words. What are we going to do with it? We're going to demand that everybody meet your personal standard of Christianity? That you're the one who sits in judgment of this, and you're the one who's determined how everybody should live? Well, we can't do that. The Gospels are littered with warnings against that. What are you going to do? Build bigger barns? Put your feet up? Rest? Coast? The rest of the way? Did you listen to the parable? With a man who thought, man, I've made it. I've arrived. The Israeli dream has come true. I can build bigger barns. I get too much stuff. I've got to get busy building bigger barns now. A man who at his funeral, everybody would have said to the children, children, if you want to emulate anyone, it's who we're burying. Look how successful he was. Look how prosperous he was. This is the man you want to emulate. And that night, while he's busy drawing the final plans, honey, who's that? Who's that at this hour? He goes and opens the door. And there he stands. Yeah? Can I help you? It's time to go. What do you mean it's time to go? I don't even know who you are. I haven't made plans. Oh, these aren't your plans. And death walks into the man's house. It begins to dawn on the man who it is. He says, what are you talking about? It's not my time. I got plans. I still got children to raise. I got things to do. I got people to meet tomorrow. Oh, you're meeting no one tomorrow. Let's go. Maybe he starts bargaining. You know that moment when you feel a little tightness and you start making the deals with God? Making all the promises that you forget the next day? He said, well, no, look, give me a little more. I'll give you half of everything that I got. Death just laughs. The man says, all right, I'll give you it all. Take everything. Take absolutely everything. Death says, I got no use for your stuff, for your toys. It's you I'm here for. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it, church? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind. We are going to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, because upon that hangs the entire book, said Jesus. We're going to love each other as Christ commanded. We're going to love each other as He loved us. We're going to spur each other on to love and good deeds. We're going to meet together, and we're going to encourage each other all the more as we see the day approaching. We're going to pray without ceasing. We're going to devote ourselves to doing good. We're going to go into all the world and preach the gospel to the whole creation. We are going to do precisely those things that we understand that are pleasing to our Father, or we are going to answer as to why we did not. There's no excuses in the kingdom. The God of heaven, the God who made it all, has already declared, you'll do. You'll do. Don't be a fool.